Welcome to the Monsters Among Us podcast. This is episode 26, Wendigo.
Hey there.
Today, we're diving into some really chilling stories shared by listeners. These are firsthand accounts, experiences that have led people to believe they might have encountered, well, the creature known as the Wendigo.
Yeah, these aren't campfire tales someone made up. These are things people say actually
Right.
happened to them, stuff that genuinely shook them up.
Exactly. So we're going to explore these experiences, look for common threads, maybe some patterns, and touch upon the actual lore surrounding this pretty frightening figure.
It's always fascinating, isn't it, how these old legends persist, but
Yeah.
through these very personal modern accounts. We've got stories from all over different times, but that core feeling of real fear
Mm-hmm.
seems to run through almost all of them.
It really does. Makes you wonder why these ideas stick around. So should we start with that first one, the one from Georgia?
Yeah, let's do it. The abandoned campground story.
Right. So this family, they're camping, but at a closed site, unmaintained. And late at night, things get weird. They hear these incredibly loud, heavy footsteps. Bipedal, they said. Near a pond? Like maybe 6 steps total.
Bipedal. Okay, so not like a deer or a bear on all fours.
No, exactly. They described it like something really big stepping out of the water and onto the shore. And the scary part, it didn't sound like any animal they recognized. Just heavier, more deliberate. It genuinely scared them. The person telling this story called himself a tough guy, but said he felt real fear.
That detail about it not sounding like a known animal, that's key. We hear that a lot in these kinds of accounts, right? It
Yeah.
immediately flags it as, well, something else.
Yeah, something outside the ordinary.
And if even the self-described tough guy is scared, that says something about how visceral the experience was.
Totally. And then it got even weirder. Suddenly the sounds weren't just by the pond. They seemed to shift, coming from everywhere at once.
Everywhere. Like how?
Like loud, rapid branch snapping, pine cones raining down, all around them, even right over their heads in the trees. They said it was like a huge number of squirrels going absolutely nuts.
But squirrels.
Well, that's the thing. They shone flashlights up there everywhere. Nothing. No animals, no eyes reflecting, no rustling leaves apart from the falling stuff. And crucially, no animal sounds, no chittering, no calls, nothing.
Just the sounds of chaos, but no visible cause.
Exactly. Just this intense, all-encompassing noise happening above them, below them, in the trees, near the water, kind of simultaneously.
Wow. Okay. That multi-directional thing is deeply unsettling. That's not typical animal behavior at all. It gives you that feeling of being surrounded, maybe even, I don't know, targeted.
Right. And the total lack of animal vocalizations just makes it stranger, more mysterious, more, dreadful.
So what happened then? Did it just stop?
It did, right at sunrise, apparently, like flipping a switch.
Convenient timing.
Wasn't it? But here's another twist. When they went to look around near the water in the morning light, they found this big fallen tree trunk, and it looked like it had been freshly, damaged.
Damaged how? Like storm damage?
No, they said it looked like deep gashes, splinters, almost like something had stabbed it repeatedly or shredded it with something huge and sharp. They were very clear it didn't look natural, not like bear claws or beaver teeth or anything like that.
Stabbed or shredded?
Yeah, they described it almost like it'd been attacked with a giant knife.
Okay. Physical evidence. That definitely adds a disturbing layer. It suggests some kind of significant force. And maybe, like you said, deliberate destruction, not just an animal bumping into it.
Puts a different spin on just hearing weird noises, doesn't it?
It certainly does.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, let's move to the next one. The Alabama story. The hunter and the not deer.
Yeah, this one's intense because it's apparently ongoing for this person. They believe what they're dealing with is a Wendigo, but they call it the not deer.
The not deer. That name itself is kind of creepy, isn't it? Suggests something familiar, but wrong. Uncanny.
Totally. And this hunter had a previous run-in, mistook it for a deer, shot at it, got chased. And they mentioned this thing can mimic voices.
Voice mimicry. That's a classic, unsettling trait in folklore, often linked to malevolent entities, including, the Wendigo. We'll circle back to that.
So this more recent encounter, the hunter's out at night using a thermal scope,
Okay, high tech.
and they witness this not deer brutally kill 2 bears. Just kill them. And here's a really weird detail. It didn't seem to eat them.
Didn't eat them, just killed them.
Yeah. And stranger still, on the thermal scope, absolutely 0 body heat. Cold.
No heat signature. Wow. That pops up in these stories sometimes. Things that seem supernatural or, just not physical in the way we understand.
Right. And then the hunter, probably freaked out, takes a shot at its head with a rifle. It just bounced off. The bullet literally ricocheted, which, as you can imagine, just made the creature furious.
Bounced off. Good grief.
Okay.
So invulnerable, shows no heat, kills without eating. This is sagging up to be seriously weird.
You bet. The hunter had a bolt, could hear it coming after them.
I don't blame them. The lack of heat, the invulnerability, it points away from any normal animal explanation. And killing without eating suggests, well, not simple predation. Maybe aggression, maybe something else entirely.
And it gets more personal. The hunter says this thing seems like it can't come into their house unless it's invited. Like, vampire rules, they said.
Huh. Another folklore trope weaving its way in. Interesting.
It apparently paced around outside their house. They found scratches on the front door later.
Physical marks again. Scratches on the door. Okay.
Then things escalated. They found the severed head of a young bear just left in their backyard.
Oh, come on. That's deliberately menacing, like a warning or a trophy. Horrible.
Yeah. And the hunter says they've actually seen the creature standing on two legs, just watching them from the shadows.
Watching them on two legs.
Yeah. And they've also started to feel like bad things happening in their life, just general misfortune, seems to coincide with when this creature shows up.
Ugh. That adds another layer, doesn't it? Beyond just the physical threat, there's this sense of a malevolent influence, maybe even a curse tied to personal hardship. And the pacing, the scratches, the bare head, the watching, it all feels very targeted, very deliberate.
It's a terrifying progression. Okay, story number 3. This one's from a former Marine down near the Alabama-Georgia line.
Okay, another southern state encounter.
This one apparently started because he and a friend were in the woods, and he, maybe foolishly, dared to say the word Wendigo 3 times out loud.
Ah, the classic don't say its name rule. Testing fate. What happened?
Well, first, just coyotes howling, maybe normal stuff. But then, bam, a huge tall pine tree suddenly falls right down, landing between him and his friend.
Whoa. Just falls. No storm. No warning.
Apparently not. Just came crashing down right between them. Could have easily killed one or both.
That definitely feels like a direct response, doesn't it? Say the name and something immediate and dangerous happens. Talk about instant karma or something much worse.
You think that's bad? It gets worse. The narrator then hears a voice. Oh no.
Mimicking again.
Yep. Sounded exactly like his friend's younger sister, and the voice was trying to lure the friend away, like, come over here, that kind of thing.
Using a loved one's voice.
Yeah.
That's just bone-chillingly creepy. A classic lure tactic in these kinds of stories.
And while this is happening, another big pine tree starts to topple over, aiming right for the friend.
Another one? Seriously?
Yeah. The narrator had to physically tackle his friend, drag him out of the way just in time.
Good grief. So, near-death experiences twice in minutes. Did they see what was causing this?
Yes. After tackling his friend in that chaotic moment, he saw it, standing there. He described it as tall, maybe 9 feet, really gaunt, skeletal looking, pale white skin.
9 feet tall. Gaunt. Pale.
Okay. And standing on 2 legs with these unnaturally skinny arms and legs. But the eyes, he said they were vibrant blue, really striking.
Vibrant blue eyes. That's an unusual detail that sometimes pops up. Skinny limbs, gaunt, pale. That description definitely lines up with some, let's say, more modern popular images of the Wendigo. Emaciated, otherworldly.
He fired his gun at it. Didn't say if he hit it or what happened, just that they both immediately turned and ran, got out of there as fast as they could.
I bet they did. The voice mimicry to lure, the falling trees, the visual, that's a terrifying combination. Especially that mimicry part. That's psychologically horrifying.
Absolutely. Okay, let's shift slightly north Mississippi this time. Story 4. This is from someone looking back at a childhood experience, maybe around age 6.
Like a childhood memory. Those can be powerful.
They were deer hunting with their father. The father shoots a deer, but it runs off wounded. So they start tracking it into some thick woods.
Standard hunting scenario so far.
Yeah, but then the narrator, just 6 years old, remember, finds something weird at the base of a tree. A bloody shoulder bone from the deer. Just the bone.
Just the bone, not the whole deer.
Mm-hmm.
That is unusual. Maybe scavengers got to it really fast.
Maybe, but that's not what the kids saw next. They looked around and saw this thing. Described as about 11 feet tall. Grayish color, human shape, but huge. And it was dragging the lifeless body of the deer their dad had shot.
11 feet tall, dragging the deer. Whoa!
Yeah. Apparently this creature didn't notice the kid standing there. It just dragged the deer off and disappeared into the woods, leaving a blood trail.
And they never found the deer after that.
Nope. Never recovered it. The narrator, even as a kid, and definitely looking back now, believes this creature must have killed the deer, not the father shot, or at least finished it off and claimed it.
An 11-foot gray humanoid thing dragging a deer away. That's quite an image, especially for a 6-year-old. Did they ever find anything else?
Years later, the narrator went back to that area and found weird claw marks high up on that same tree where they'd found the shoulder bone. And they also mentioned that, ever since that incident, people have seen fewer and fewer deer in that particular part of the woods.
Claw marks high up and fewer deer. Suggests a lingering presence or at least lasting impact on the local ecosystem, maybe. Fascinating and terrifying.
Definitely. Let's move to story 5. This one involves teenagers on a reservation. A sleepover that turns scary.
Okay, reservation setting. That adds a layer, potentially connecting more directly to indigenous lore.
It started with unsettling sounds outside at night. Something heavy landing on the roof, then sounds like running across it.
Okay, roof sounds. Could be animals, could be something else.
Then it escalated. One of the kids saw something trying to get into a window. They described it as sort of monkey-like, but with a feline face. And claws.
Monkey-like, feline face, claws trying to get in. That's a bizarre combination.
Very. Later, some of them were sleeping outside, maybe in tents or just under the stars. They hear rustling in the nearby woods. Then, what sounds like a really large animal just crashing through the trees, breaking branches.
Something big moving clumsily or maybe aggressively.
Then footsteps, heavy, walking on 2 legs, close by, and heavy breathing.
Oh, man. 2 legs again, close.
And then this roar. They said it was deep, but it also had this high-pitched layer over it, like 2 sounds at once. Really unnatural.
A layered roar. That sounds incredibly disturbing. Primal.
They managed to grab a light and shine it towards the sound, and they saw it.
What did it look like?
Massive. 7 or 8 feet tall, they estimated, covered in dark fur. The face was described as sort of bear-like, but also human-like, kind of flat, and glowing yellow eyes.
Bear-like, human-like, flat face, glowing yellow eyes, dark fur. That's a terrifying mix of features. Does that align with any specific cryptid descriptions?
It shares elements with descriptions of Sasquatch sometimes, but the face details, the roar, it feels distinct. As soon as the light hit it, it turned and fled back into the woods.
So it reacted to light. It didn't attack, just retreated.
Right. But the next day, they found footprints. Huge, weird footprints that they said were definitely not bear tracks.
Footprints again. More physical evidence, or traces at least. Not bear tracks. Another piece of the puzzle.
Okay, story 6. Another hunter. This time the story's called I Shot a Deer. Seems simple, but it's not.
Uh-oh. Given the theme, probably not simple at all. Where was this?
Doesn't specify the exact location, just in the forest at night. The hunter feels this immediate sense of unease after shooting a large buck. Something felt wrong about this particular deer. It apparently stared right at them before they shot, giving them a bad feeling.
A sense of wrongness about the animal itself.
Interesting.
And then they hear a voice in their head. Clear as day, saying, don't do it, right before the shot. And then afterwards, no, you know what, you shouldn't have shot that deer.
A voice in their head. Telepathic warning or reprimand. That's a whole different level of weird.
Isn't it? So they go to track the deer they shot, find a blood trail, but the trail just ends abruptly at the base of a large tree. No more blood, no sign of the deer dragging itself away.
It just stops mid-trail.
Yeah, but there were signs that something had scaled the tree. Scrapes, maybe disturbed moss or bark going upwards.
Scaled the tree. A wounded deer. Or whatever it was. Exactly. So the hunter decides to camp right there, by that tree, maybe wait for morning. But they feel watched all night, hear snapping sounds in the darkness around them. And that voice comes back in their head again, asking, what are you doing?
Camping by the spooky tree after hearing voices and finding weird tracks. Bold move. Or maybe a terrified one, feeling watched. More sounds, more voices. Classic psychological pressure building.
And the morning brings something even stranger. They wake up to find hundreds, maybe thousands of deer tracks completely encircling their campsite. A perfect circle. But no tracks leading into the circle and none leading out.
Wait, what? Tracks just appearing in a circle like they've materialized there? That's impossible.
That's what they describe, just a dense ring of tracks surrounding them. Understandably freaked out, the hunter starts packing up to leave. Then they notice something odd. A large bush nearby, and sticking out of it, antlers. But they looked wrong, positioned strangely.
Odd antlers in a bush. Okay, trap, illusion.
The hunter, maybe thinking it's the deer they shot, takes a shot at the bush at the antlers. No reaction. Nothing happens. And then the antlers just slowly disappear, withdraw back into the bush, or fade away.
Disappear. Okay, this is getting seriously surreal. Magic trick antlers.
Totally. The hunter decides, okay, I'm out, and starts running. Feels like something is following them, tailing them through the woods.
That feeling of being pursued.
Yeah.
Primal fear.
They finally reach a logging road, hoping for safety, but the fog on the road parts, and there again, another perfect circle made of hundreds of deer tracks. No entry, no exit.
The tracks again on the road this time. It's like the phenomenon is following them or mocking them.
It gets even more bizarre. Later, back at their main camp, expecting a friend to arrive, they see a silhouette approaching in the dusk. But it's not their friend.
Oh, no.
It's tall, very tall, with skinny legs, arms held at weird angles, long, stringy, hair-like growth hanging down. And above its head, the narrator described it as writhing lines, almost like static or heat haze, but visible.
Writhing lines above its head. That's a detail I haven't heard before. What is this thing?
It gets clearer. As it gets closer, the figure seems to transform or clarify. It becomes the deer the hunter shot, but it's standing on its hind legs.
The deer. Standing up.
Yeah. Its forelegs now end in claws. Its mouth opens to show rows and rows of jagged, sharp teeth. And the antlers. They're not antlers anymore. They look like writhing tentacles. And its eyes have shifted, moved closer together, almost to the center of its face.
Oh my God. That's pure nightmare fuel. A shape-shifting predatory deer thing. That description is horrific. Rows of teeth, tentacle antlers, shifted eyes.
The hunter said it started advancing on them. There was a sudden downpour of rain. Darkness fell completely. They fired their gun blindly into the dark as it came closer, felt fur, fired again, then just turned and ran for their life.
Firing into the dark, feeling fur. Did they get away?
Eventually, yeah. Their friend found them later, apparently bewildered, just repeating that they'd shot a deer. The whole horrific transformation encounter maybe blocked out or just too much to process right away.
I don't even know what to say to that one. That's one of the most graphic and transformative accounts I've heard. Just, wow.
It's intense. Let's take a slight breather with number 7, maybe less directly terrifying, but still very weird. The not deer of Washington State.
Okay, another not deer. West Coast this time.
This person was just at a beach in Washington, saw something moving way off in the distance near the tree line or dunes. At first thought it was a deer.
Makes sense. Near a wooded area by a beach.
But it was moving wrong, really fast, unnaturally fast, and its neck seemed way too flexible, bending at odd angles, and it looked like it had a white face or maybe a mask.
Unnatural speed, weird flexibility, white face or mask. Key,
Yeah.
not deer or mimic features. Was it silent?
Yeah, completely silent. Despite moving so quickly across the terrain, the witness mentioned it to an aunt later, who apparently just shrugged and said, oh, that might be a not deer, like it was a known thing in the area.
Just casually dropping not deer lore. Interesting. So, no direct threat, but a very unsettling sighting of something moving in ways it shouldn't.
Exactly. Okay, story 8 takes us to northern Minnesota, 2002. A park ranger's experiences.
Park ranger. They often have interesting stories spending so much time out there. Minnesota. That's definitely traditional Wendigo territory.
For sure. This ranger started noticing periods where the woods would just fall completely unnaturally silent. No birds, no insects, nothing. Just dead quiet.
That unnatural silence, another recurring motif, often precedes something strange happening.
Campers started reporting weird noises at night, too. Dragging sounds, whispering just outside their tents.
Whispering and dragging. Classic creepy sounds in the woods.
Then, a specific family reported seeing something truly bizarre. An unnaturally tall, thin figure hunched over, just swaying back and forth at the edge of their campsite in the pre-dawn light. As the sun started to rise, it walked away into the woods, but its movements were jerky and unnatural.
Tall, thin, hunched, swaying, jerky movements. That fits some descriptions, doesn't it? Gaunt, unnatural movement.
The narrator mentioned this to an older, more experienced ranger at the park, and the older ranger wasn't surprised. He said these kinds of things seem to happen in cycles. Strange events, weird sightings, even people going missing often coincided with these cycles, and he linked it directly to the local Wendigo legends.
The older ranger acknowledged the pattern and the legend. Wow. Did he offer any advice?
Yeah. He basically told the narrator, be careful, don't stay in the park after dark if you can help it.
Solid advice, I'd say, given the context.
Things kept happening. More reports from campers, vandalism, belongings disturbed, found in weird places,
Yeah.
and bizarre arrangements of animal carcasses being found.
Arranged carcasses, like ritualistically.
Yeah.
That's very unsettling. Points away from simple animal activity again.
Definitely. So one night, the narrator is working late, has to leave the ranger office after dark. As they're walking to their car, they get that feeling being watched.
Uh-oh.
Hear slow, deliberate footsteps behind them. They turn and see it at the edge of the trees. A tall figure, moving unnaturally, joints bending in ways they shouldn't, like it was gliding, not walking normally.
Gliding, joint bending wrong. Horrifying visuals. What did they do?
It started moving towards them. They didn't stick around, just bolted right back into the office, locked the door, and presumably stay there until daylight or called for backup.
Smart move. Running seems to be the best defense in most of these stories. That Minnesota account feels very grounded in the traditional lore of the region.
It really does. Okay, number 9, Oklahoma, a nature preserve counselor.
Oklahoma. A bit further south than the typical Great Lakes region for Wendigo, but these stories spread.
This starts with a child screaming, saying they saw a creature. The counselor and a colleague go to investigate. They find tracks, large three-toed tracks.
Three-toed. That's specific.
Yeah.
Not deer, not bear, not human.
Nope. Then the counselor starts hearing things. Sounds like a baby crying. Then like a woman screaming for help, but they can't pinpoint where it's coming from. It seems to move around.
Mimicry again. Crying baby, woman in distress. Lures. Classic Wendigo forest entity tactics according to lore.
Then, loud footsteps, snapping branches close by. They see large, dark shapes moving fast through the swampy area, and there's a smell.
What kind of smell?
Foul, like stagnant water, decay, really bad.
The stench of death or decay is often associated with these creatures in folklore, too.
And then they see it emerge from the swamp. Huge, dark creature. Glowing red eyes this time, and large antlers.
Red eyes, antlers.
Yeah.
Okay, that's hitting some of the more popular modern Wendigo imagery. How is it moving?
On all fours initially, but very large, it let out this deafening roar, and the counselor got a closer look at its face, described it as looking dead, rotting. Bony face, large fangs.
Rotting, bony face, fangs, antlers. That's a terrifying combination. What did it do?
It seemed incredibly strong. It apparently knocked over several large cedar trees just by moving past or through them. But then as it approached a group of campers nearby, it just vanished.
Vanished.
It just disappeared.
Gone. When the counselor talked to their colleague afterwards, the colleague admitted he'd seen it before. And his advice, forget about it. Leave the forest. Don't talk about it.
Seen it before. And advises silence and avoidance. Another instance of locals knowing or believing they know what's out there and wanting nothing to do with it. It seems that way. All right, quick one, number 10, Northern Michigan.
Backpacker. Michigan, another core area.
This person experienced disorientation, memory loss.
Yeah.
They'd been trekking, set up camp, went to sleep, woke up, compass was broken, no memory of the entire previous day's hike or setting up camp.
Missing time. That's unsettling. Amnesia related to the location.
Seems like it.
Yeah.
And they felt this intense, irrational fear. The classic being watched feeling. Found their food supplies gone, their map torn up.
Sabotage. Or did they do it themselves during the lost time?
They don't know, but they had this overwhelming feeling that something had been trying to lure them off the trail during that period they couldn't remember.
Memory loss, fear, potential sabotage, feeling lured. It's less direct than seeing a creature, but still deeply unnerving. Fits the psychological manipulation aspect sometimes attributed to these entities.
Yeah, that sense of being messed with, led astray. Okay, number 11, New Jersey. Bass River State Forest. School camping trip.
New Jersey. Okay, East Coast woods.
This is from someone remembering being a child on this trip. Felt watched, heard a bizarre howl one night. Sounded human, they thought, but also kind of wolf-like. Unsettling mix.
Human wolf howl. Strange.
Later, they went off alone to collect firewood. Forest goes eerily silent. That familiar sign.
There it is again. The silence.
Here's a twig snap behind them. Calls out, hello! But their own echo sounds wrong, distorted, inhuman.
Echo sounding wrong. That's creepy. Like the forest itself is twisting the sound.
You start running back towards camp, hearing twigs snapping right behind them, keeping pace.
I mean chased.
They glance back and see it, described as a huge wolf but standing on its hind legs, with antlers. Looking down at them, and they said it looked like it was smiling, showing rows of razor-sharp teeth.
Wolf on two legs with antlers, smiling. That's the kitchen sink of monster parts right there. Terrifying image for a kid.
Absolutely. The child apparently reached their friend, then just blacked out. When they came to, they could only tell people they'd seen a wolf. Maybe the full memory was too much or they couldn't articulate it.
Trauma response, maybe. Blocking out the truly bizarre details. A wolf on 2 legs with antlers. It hits several Wendigo skinwalker-type descriptions.
It really does. Number 12, let me in. Remote cabin setting. 2 friends.
Cabin in the woods.
Yeah.
Never a good start in these stories.
Late at night, they hear tapping on the window. Then one friend's dad calls, says he saw them at the cabin on his trail cams, might come up hunting in the morning. Normal-ish call.
Okay, establishes they are where they say they are. Trail cams. Interesting detail.
Later, the tapping stops, but then the doorknob starts jiggling violently.
Trying to get in. Okay, escalation.
One friend looks through the window or peephole, sees a figure outside, tall, gaunt, grayish skin stretched tight over bones, black, hollow-looking eyes, and layers of jagged teeth.
Gaunt, gray skin, hollow eyes, jagged teeth. That description is chillingly close to some Wendigo accounts, especially the emaciated, sharp-toothed aspects.
And then it speaks, in a voice perfectly mimicking the other friend, the one supposedly inside the cabin with the narrator, and it says, "Let me in."
Oh, mimics the friend who's right there. That's bold and incredibly creepy, using the trusted voice.
The creature keeps jiggling the doorknob, harder now. The narrator grabs a shotgun, fires through the door or window at the figure.
Did it work?
They heard a loud thud, then this terrifying, inhuman scream, looked out again and saw a figure running away, down a hill towards a cornfield, moving incredibly fast.
It screamed, it ran, so the shot maybe heard it or scared it off, moving super fast.
Seems like it. And the kicker, they go check on the friend whose voice was mimicked. He wasn't in the cabin. He was found asleep in his car outside. He'd apparently decided to sleep there instead of coming inside earlier.
What? So the mimicry was even more accurate because the friend wasn't inside to contradict it.
That makes it even creepier. Wow.
Right. The timing, the voice, everything perfectly calculated to deceive.
Okay, that's deeply unsettling. Let's move on. South Dakota next. Story 13.
Yep. College student, late-night chats with classmates from the Sioux tribe about their mythology, including shapeshifters. Foreshadowing.
Perhaps setting the scene with local lore. So this student is driving with friends in a remote area late at night. They see 2 yellow orbs in the tree line. Eyes.
Glowing eyes in the dark. Classic.
One friend dismisses it, maybe an owl or something. But the narrator and another friend see the eyes suddenly drop lower, accompanied by a loud crash, like something heavy falling or jumping down from a tree.
Okay, so not just floating orbs. They moved. Crash suggests mass.
Then this absolutely terrifying roar erupts from the darkness where the eyes were, filled with hatred, evil, they said, just pure malice in the sound.
A roar filled with evil. That's evocative. Primal fear response time.
Totally. They scramble back to their truck. As they're getting in, the narrator looks back and sees the 2 glowing yellow eyes just staring at them from the darkness.
Just watching them leave. Did they get a look at the creature itself?
No, just the eyes and the roll. But later, one of the friends in the car claimed they'd seen similar things before out there. They all agreed, whatever it wasn't human, and it wasn't anything they'd ever hunted.
Locals, again, hinting at knowing something is out there, something unnatural. The yellow eyes and roar are common elements, though not exclusively Wendigo.
True. Okay, number 14, the thing in the yard. College house, someone keeping watch for their cousin.
Keeping watch. Why? Was there trouble already?
Doesn't say why, just that they were on watch duty. Sees a figure near the tree line at night. Tall, bluish-white color. Just stood there at a distance, made no noise.
Bluish-white. That's a different color description. Silent, distant observer.
The next night, they and their cousin see 3 figures. Shimmering, same description, gliding around the backyard before vanishing into the trees.
3 of them.
Yeah.
Shimmering, gliding.
Yeah.
Sounds almost spectral.
Then, the following day, in broad daylight, one of the creatures is seen just pacing back and forth in the backyard. The narrator just noped right out of there, fled the house. They suspected Skinwalker, given the description and behavior.
Pacing in daylight.
Yeah.
That's bold.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the description, especially if this was Southwest, might lean toward Skinwalker lore for some. Gliding, shimmering. Very strange.
Very. Number 15, Walker Lake, Nevada. Hunters again.
Nevada. Basin and range territory. Different environment.
3 friends hunting. Get that feeling again, unease, being watched.
Seems to be the standard opening for these things.
One friend then spots something staring at their campsite. Described it as a large, hairy dog. Or maybe deer-like, hard to tell.
Dog-deer ambiguity. Interesting.
Then suddenly this creature stands up on its hind legs. and runs back towards Walker Lake at an incredible speed.
Stood up and ran super fast. Another recurring element. Did they get a good look at its face?
Apparently one of the friends did and was deeply spooked by it, but the description doesn't detail the face, just that it freaked him out badly.
The face often seems to be a key element in the fear factor, even if undescribed. Standing up, running fast, classic cryptid behavior.
Okay, 16. Maine, Sandy River. The narrator mentions being of Penobscot and Abenaki descent.
Maine, Penobscot, Abenaki. Okay, this is deep within traditional Algonquian territory and knowledge. This could be significant.
They're by the river with friends, feel instantly unsettled, watched. That feeling again.
Right on cue.
Then they hear heavy footsteps in the snow below them, down the riverbank. Like a moose or a cow, really heavy. But their friend, right next to them, hears nothing.
Only one person hears it. Selective auditory phenomenon. That's strange.
And a smell, sickly sweet mixed with the smell of dead flesh, rot.
That smell again. Decay.
Then something calls the narrator's name. The voice sounded like radiostatic or crinkling tinfoil, not human.
Calling their name in a distorted, non-human voice. Extremely creepy. Personalized targeting.
The narrator, recognizing these signs from the Wendigo stories they grew up with, the feeling, the smell, the voice immediately presses their face into the snow, refuses to look, refuses to answer or acknowledge it.
Following traditional advice, don't look, don't engage. Smart, maybe.
It seems so. After a while, the footsteps, the smell, the voice, they just faded away and disappeared. The narrator believes they avoided a direct encounter by following the traditional protocols.
Wow. That's a powerful account, especially given the narrator's heritage and their specific actions based on that knowledge. It speaks volumes about the cultural weight of the legend.
Absolutely. Let's jump back south. Story 17, Southern Wendigo, rural Alabama camping trip.
Alabama again. It seems to be a hot spot in these listeners' stories.
Group camping, wind dies down, they feel watched. The usual setup.
Yep.
One friend then decides to share a story his father told him about seeing a creature in these very same woods years ago, man-like, but with long arms, claws, and antlers.
Father's story setting the stage. Long arms, claws, antlers, hitting those popular Wendigo points.
Right after he tells the story, a voice calls out from the dark. Sounds like a woman in pain crying for help.
Mimicry. Woman in distress lore. Textbook.
They call out, try to see who it is. Then the friend whose father told the story appears, but from a completely different direction than the voice. He's fine, hadn't heard anything.
So the voice wasn't him, and it wasn't a real woman in distress they could find. It was a lure.
Seems like it, because the voice calls out again, still sounding like a woman needing help. Then footsteps start circling the camp, fast, followed by a low growl.
Circling, growling, pressure increasing, testing their reactions.
Someone manages to fire off a flare gun. In the bright light, they see it. A creature matching the description from the father's story, man-like, long arms, claws, antlers.
The flare reveals it. Matched the description. Wow, what did it do?
It screeched at the light, recoiled from the brightness. The group used the chance to run.
Screeched and recoiled from light. Another common reaction, they ran.
Yes, but during the escape, the narrator felt like they were attacked from behind, felt a sharp burning pain in their chest.
Attacked. Physically hit.
Yeah. They got away, but later found 3 long, parallel claw marks across their chest. Had to go to the hospital. They firmly believe they encountered and were injured by a Wendigo.
Actual physical injury.
Yeah.
Claw marks requiring hospitalization.
Yeah.
That takes it beyond just seeing or hearing something. That's direct physical assault. Powerful story.
Very. Okay, 18. Pennsylvania, near a place called Devil Fork Creek.
Devil Fork Creek. Aptly named, maybe. Pennsylvania woods.
This person lives there, knows the woods, but near this creek, they always feel a sense of evil, a gut-wrenching fear.
Location-specific dread. Some places just feel wrong, people say.
They start hearing their name called, repeatedly, from different directions in the woods. One voice sounds exactly like their husband, but it's coming from the wrong direction, where he shouldn't be. And the voice sounds distorted, far away, even when it seems close.
Name calling, voice mimicry of a loved one, spatial distortion, all deeply unsettling psychological tactics.
Then their actual husband appears, walking towards them. From the opposite direction he'd originally gone. He claims he just got completely lost, turned around, disoriented, despite having lived there and known those woods his whole life.
The husband got lost and disoriented right when the mimic voice was happening. That's highly suspicious. Coincidence. Or was he being influenced too?
The narrator wonders the same thing, and adds that the husband later had his own separate frightening experience in their garage, but doesn't detail it. Suggests the weirdness wasn't isolated to the woods or that one time. Skinwalker or Wendigo is the question posed.
Disorientation, mimicry, lingering effects.
Yeah.
Yeah, it blurs the lines between different folklore figures sometimes, depending on the specific phenomena.
Definitely. Number 19. Short but creepy. Father at a remote cabin in Michigan.
Michigan cabin, another classic setting.
Late at night, he hears his young daughter's voice calling, "Daddy, help me!" Coming from outside, near a wooded area known locally for Wendigo lore and, specifically, voice mimicry stories.
Oh no, using the child's voice. The ultimate lure.
He knew his daughter was supposed to be asleep inside, and even if she'd woken up and gone outside, she couldn't possibly have gotten way out there near those woods that quickly or quietly.
So his rational mind is saying, this can't be her. But the emotional pull of hearing your child cry for help?
Exactly. He checks inside. Daughter is safe, sound asleep in her bed. He's convinced something was out there, mimicking her voice, trying to lure him out into the dark.
Chilling. Simple, direct, and plays on such a deep fear. That's effective horror right there.
It really is.
Okay, story 20 is a bit different, called Misty. It involves a cat.
A cat. Okay, how does a cat tie into Wendigo?
Well, the narrator's friend, Sarah, had this cat, Misty. And Misty started becoming really aggressive, unpredictable, out of character.
Okay, sudden behavior change in a pet. Could be medical, but given the context.
Sarah starts having nightmares about Misty attacking her. Then one night, Misty actually bites her hard right through the bed covers.
Okay, escalating from bad behavior to actual attack.
Later that same night, or another night soon after, Sarah wakes up, hears low growling in her dark bedroom, sees two glowing eyes in the corner.
Glowing eyes in the bedroom, not the cat.
Doesn't seem like it. She hears claws scratching across the floor towards her bed, feels hot breath on her face, sees sharp teeth right near her. Whoa! Invisible entity, or something manifesting. That's terrifying.
And then, just as abruptly as it started, it vanishes. Gone.
Vanished. Okay. What about the cat?
The next morning, Misty the cat is gone. Just disappeared from the house, never seen again. Sarah believes something evil, maybe related to the Wendigo or some other entity, had somehow possessed or taken over her cat and then finally revealed itself before leaving.
Wow. That's a really strange twist. Possession of an animal culminating in a direct, terrifying close encounter, then both the entity and the animal vanish. Very bizarre.
It is. Last story, number 21. Screaming from the brush.
Cascade Mountains backpacker.
Cascades. Pacific Northwest. Beautiful, vast wilderness.
This backpacker keeps hearing what sounds like a man screaming for help, coming from dense brush just off the trail. But their hiking companion hears absolutely nothing.
Selective hearing again. Man screaming for help. Lure. We've heard this one before.
The backpacker gets a really strong gut feeling. Do not go into that brush. Whatever is making that sound wants to lure them in there to hurt them. Trusting the gut instinct. Probably wise.
One night, they're having trouble sleeping. Look out of their tent. See a tall, dark shadow moving between the trees. Thought they might have seen a hand reaching out from behind a tree. Very indistinct, but unsettling.
Shadow figure, potential hand, fleeting glimpse adding to the unease.
And their dreams become plagued by nightmares of being chased, escaping from some unseen attacker hidden in the brush, just constant anxiety dreams related to the experience.
Psychological impact. The fear lingers, manifesting in nightmares.
The whole experience reminded the narrator strongly of the video game Until Dawn, which features creatures heavily inspired by, well, Wendigos, including their mimicry and appearance.
Life imitating art, or art imitating legend, which then feels like life. It's interesting how pop culture representations can frame how people interpret these experiences too.
Definitely. So that's a lot of chilling stories, and you can see those threads we talked about, the unsettling presence, the weird sounds, the gaunt figures, the mimicry. It keeps coming up.
It really does. And it's fascinating to compare these first-hand accounts to the actual folklore, the traditional understanding of the Wendigo. It wasn't always the antlered monster we see in movies, was it?
No, not at all. According to sources like Mysteries of Mythology, the origins are with Algonquian-speaking tribes, Ojibwe, Cree, others around the Great Lakes and Canadian wilderness. Traditionally, it was depicted as this gaunt, emaciated figure, really embodying starvation, isolation, the harshness of winter.
Right, more spectral, almost. Exuding decay and death, as one scholar, Basil Johnston, put it. It was more of a metaphor, wasn't it, for transformation?
Exactly. A metaphor for what happens when greed or despair, or especially the taboo of cannibalism in times of starvation, takes over. It represented a loss of humanity, a spiritual and psychological transformation. Consuming human flesh marked this profound shift away from community and empathy.
That translation, Wendigo, meaning something like solely for self, really captures that essence, doesn't it? The ultimate selfishness, the loss of connection.
It does. These stories served as cautionary tales, really. Warnings against greed, against selfishness, against resorting to cannibalism, even in the most dire circumstances. They emphasized community, sharing resources, maintaining humanity.
So the popular media version, the big antlered monster, kind of misses those deeper cultural layers, the moral and psychological dimensions.
It often does, yeah. The legend is richer, representing these darker aspects of human nature, lessons about survival, isolation, and moral corruption. The transformation was believed to happen within, driven by desperation and that act of consuming human flesh. The physical changes, the gauntness, were often linked to the effects of severe malnutrition that might accompany such desperate situations.
And there were historical cases, weren't there? Like Swift Runner, individuals in desperate circumstances who did resort to cannibalism and were sometimes seen through the lens of this belief.
Yes, tragically. And this deep-seated belief even led to what anthropologists called Wendigo psychosis, a culture-bound syndrome where individuals suffered delusions of becoming a Wendigo, sometimes developing an obsessive craving for human flesh, a terrifying manifestation of cultural fear and psychological stress.
And that mimicry aspect we heard in so many stories, that's also rooted in the traditional lore,
Yeah.
using sounds to lure victims.
Absolutely. The lore often mentions the Wendigo using sounds like a baby crying, a woman screaming, maybe a voice sounding like it's on a static loop saying, "Help me, I'm lost," or, most chillingly, the voice of a loved one, all designed to draw people into danger. It connects directly back to so many of the accounts we just heard.
It really ties it together, doesn't it? These modern accounts, whether they're literal encounters or something else, are echoing these very old, very specific, and very frightening elements of the original legends.
Yeah, they absolutely are. So when you hear these stories, these intense personal experiences, it's hard not to feel a chill. Are they encounters with some unknown cryptids? Are they powerful psychological experiences, maybe triggered by folklore and fear in isolated places? Or is it something else entirely? It's a question that really lingers. What do you listening make of it all?
It's the persistence, I think. The way these narratives endure, adapting maybe, but holding on to core elements of fear. The wilderness still holds unknowns, and these stories tap into something primal: fear of the dark, isolation, the unknown, and maybe most unsettling, the fear of something that looks or sounds like us but isn't. That mimicry is terrifying.
It truly is. The consistency across some details, different regions, different times, it makes you pause, doesn't it?
It definitely does. Food for thought.
We really encourage you to keep thinking about these stories. Maybe look more into the folklore yourselves. Perhaps there are truths or at least warnings hidden in these terrifying tales.
Yeah, it's a deep rabbit hole, the lore and the accounts.
Well, thank you for joining us as we explored this, frankly, scary world of alleged Wendigo encounters. Please stay safe out there, especially if you're heading into the woods.
See.